Welcome back to the Heroes of the Faith who were called twice. My name is Adam Semple, and we've been going through the Bible looking at individuals who, when God called their name, He called their name twice. He wanted to get their attention, and He wanted to speak something that would be remembered. So far, we've looked at Abraham in the Old Testament. We've looked at Martha in the New Testament. We've looked at Moses back in the Old Testament. And yesterday, we looked at Simon Peter at the Last Supper in the New Testament. Today, we're going back to Genesis, back to Abraham's grandson, Jacob. If you don't know anything about Jacob, he's the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. He's the second born of Isaac, and he's now a very much older man. His whole life had been torn apart from him when he thought that Joseph, his favorite son, was killed when he was actually just sold into slavery by his brothers. And now we pick up the story after Joseph has revealed himself to his older brothers, after he has saved them and given them food. Joseph tells his brothers, hey, Pharaoh's gonna give you a spot of land here in Egypt. Go get father. Bring all that you guys have and come live in this area called Goshen. So, at first, Jacob doesn't believe it, because for about 20 something years he believed that Joseph was dead, that there was nothing else to live for, that his favorite son, born of his favorite wife Rachel, was dead. But then he looks outside at what his sons had brought back: the wheat, the money in their pouches, and the cartloads of goods. And he's like, okay, I have to see Joseph. If nothing else, if I die in this journey, I have to see Joseph. I have to see my son. So we're going to pick up reading in chapter 46, just a few verses today, verses 1 through 3. So Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. Then God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. So he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there. So, back when Jacob, before he had his name changed, before his kids were born, before he served his uncle for his wives, God had told him that he would be a great nation, that through him would come a great nation. He wrestles with God. God changes his name to Israel, and as we know, the rest is history. So, as Jacob is missing a son, his family's kind of divided, and now his dead son is saying, hey, come to Egypt, come to this land that is prospering in this famine. Jacob is a little bit hesitant, because God's promise was to his family, but it was also to his grandfather, who said, I will give you this land. I will give you the land that you're in now, but for now, I need you to change location. I need you to go to Goshen, go to Egypt. Don't worry, I will still make you a great nation. Sometimes when we go through our journey as Christians, we have to remember that God is not set on a place, He's set on people. Places change. Circumstances change. the place where we plant our feet sometimes might change. What can't change is how we see God. What can't change in our mind is the way that we treat God, how we put Him first, how we trust Him with everything. And in this verse in chapter 46, God is saying, just because it's time to move doesn't mean that I'm changing. Doesn't mean that my promise is any less true. It's just not going to be the way that you thought it was. So as we continue with this series, as we begin to wrap it up, as we get close to the end of the week, remember that God knows what He's doing, that He saw this plan in Egypt way before Jacob was born, way before Joseph was sold into slavery, way before Isaac was born, way before Abraham. Yet He has to entrust His people with the steps when they need them. If He had told Abraham that his great-grandchildren would sell one of his grandkids into slavery, break his grandson's heart, do all these things, Abraham probably wouldn't have followed so closely. But because He gave him one piece at a time and said, trust me with the rest, when it gets time for Jacob to hear the same message, it's easier for him to hear. So join us tomorrow. We'll look at another one in the New Testament. And until then, God bless.